joining us now, good friend of the show. He was in the slice last night. He's been all over the Motor City this week. Our good buddy Bryce Simon, Motor City Hoops. Find him on Twitter at Motor City Hoops. Find the Pistons Pulse, the podcast with our good buddy Mari Sankofa of the Detroit Free Press on Free Sports. Bryce, my man, good morning to you. How are you? How's life? How are things, partner?
What's up, Anthony, man? I'm doing well, standing in my hotel room at the DoubleTree here downtown, just enjoying life in Detroit the last couple of days, trying to get all the cuisine, take in everything, meet whoever I can. Obviously at LCA last night. I'll be at LCA tonight again. And so excited that I can join you this morning to talk, well, whatever we want to talk about. I don't know if it's Pistons, if it's food, if it's Detroit in general, whatever we're going to get into, Anthony.
Man, I love it. So I did see, a lot of people, I saw some of the, the retweets and the posts, the pictures, man. It's got to be, kind of cool for you as someone making the trip to Detroit, because you're more in the Midwest than, in the city, and someone who's been covering the Detroit Pistons that's built such a following via Twitter. And, you get on with Amari Sankofa. You guys have this podcast together, presented by the Detroit Free Press called the Pistons Pulse. You guys actually got to do sort of a live show at a local spot, man. Take us through like the logistics and the planning of that.
Yeah, so we went down to Hobcat, Detroit, another good food spot. I legit ate the supper before we recorded, and the food was good, and then I got some more after we recorded. But they got a spot up top, like a little entertainment spot on the second floor. And the Free Press, the marketing team put this whole thing together. So essentially it was like a in-person, like kind of like a studio recording, I guess, but now it wouldn't be studio, I guess, but we had a crowd, like obviously it was friends and family, but some of our listeners got to come down. They came up to the mic, asked questions. It's all on YouTube if anybody wants to watch it on the Free Sports YouTube channel. But really what it was about, Anthony, was just getting to interact with our fans and stuff like that. So we stayed around after. We watched the national championship game, had some drinks, had some food, and got to talk to these people that I interact with. Like me and you have never met in person. You know what I'm saying? And so that was a chance to do some of that stuff. That's what these trips are truly about for me, is get to meet some of these people in person.
And I was literally offered, a buddy of mine who I work with was like, hey, I got tickets to go Wednesday's game. Can you go? And I was like, there's just no way. There's no way I could pull this off with work. Like I wish I could, because I would just be walking around just just give me the meet and greet, right? I got to see all these, like you said, like to be able to interact with. I saw you doing the post game recap with Detroit Kool-Aid, another guy who I interact with a lot on Twitter, but have never met in person. I guess that's one of the positives, if you may, about social media, is all these interactions and getting to know people online, and then you meet them in person, and it's like, oh, you're literally the same person I've been talking to all these years. Like that's crazy. How much sleep have you gotten?
You got me up early this morning. I'll say that. Like I'll tell you this, Anthony. I haven't got much accomplished today. I had to set my alarm because we went to Harry's last night, right there by the arena. And again, that's what was cool is, just people I hadn't had a chance to meet in person and stuff like that. It's like, hey, let's go to Harry's. You go down there for, we'll stay for 15 minutes and you stay for a couple hours. And so by the time we got back to the hotel, it was a little bit later. But I got to meet Downtown Deuce last night of the game. And then even just people, like I'm fortunate enough, they allow me to get credentialed for the game. And so, I get to go in the media room and walk around on the court and, pregame and all that stuff. And so it's just a lot of people I get to interact with and meet that, and they're all good people, Anthony. Like that's been the coolest thing, is every time I come to Detroit, whether it's people with the Pistons, whether it's, media, whether it's the hotel workers, we haven't met a bad person yet. Like every one of them is just legit nice. The restaurant, the foods are incredible. Like we love Detroit every time we come. That's what it is.
Now, would you ever have thought that when you started your journey here covering the Detroit Pistons, that you'd be walking around on the floor pregame of a Pistons game? Like it has gotten to that level. I mean, Bryce, you're kind of a big deal. Let's be honest here. You can be humble about it. You can be humble all you want. I'm gonna gas you up right now. But could you have ever have believed that hey, I'm gonna start this. I like watching the Pistons or whatever that the drive was that took you to covering Detroit basketball now to this point where you're at right now?
No, like straight up no. Like that's the thing is, I mean, it was surreal whenever I realized I was going to get to do a podcast with a Pistons beat writer, you know, because those used to be the guys that I was like, man, I wonder if I can get them to be a guest on the original Motor City Hoops pod, you know, and I guess to brag a little bit, like I'm walking around LCA yesterday talking to people that are like, yeah, we listen to the pod, yeah, we love you, you know, the pod, and like these are people that either work for the Pistons or are, you know, part of all of that stuff, you know, like I'm not going to name drop. So, but it's like, dang, like people really are paying attention to this. And so, yeah, man, it's cool. But again, like the best part is the people. Like me and you text, all like we, you know, we get to know each other, and not legit. Those relationships are the coolest part. And coming to Detroit, you solidify those relationships a little bit with like in person, look someone in the eye, shake their hand, all of that stuff. So,
Man, it's awesome. It's awesome. When I saw you were there, I was like, oh, I gotta see if I can get him up in the morning. That's why I sent that text last night. I was like, I don't know if he's gonna do it. If he says no, I don't blame him because he might be doing the whole Grey Ghost thing. You know, he might cross Woodward a little bit and get it might be a long night for the adults, right? Put the kids to
Grey
sleep.
Ghost is good too, though. We ate there. That was the first place that's the first spot we ever hit in Detroit. Last season when we came up, Omari took us to Grey Ghost. That's a good spot too. So.
At the bar across Woodward, it's like a block away. It's called Empire. It's got kind of a cool scene, kind of a cool vibe. You know, a little upscale. You know, make you feel like you walk in. Like, oh, okay, I like the lighting of this place. You know, they got the people, the bartenders got the aprons on. It's like, what are you afraid you're gonna get lemon juice on your shirt? What's going on here? Anywho, the Pistons rookies really shined in last night's ball game. And prior to the ball game, Troy Weaver released a letter. I don't know where it came from. It came out of left field, but I was, on my way to work, and I'm like, oh, here we just got a letter from the Pistons general manager, and it's odd. The timing of it was odd because it's been such a disappointing season, and the letter comes out with 4 games, obviously going into last night's game. Now 3 games left, but games left in the season. This kind of felt like something you'd save for like after the season. I just thought the timing of it was weird.
I agree, Anthony, and I haven't really asked anybody about that, but I thought the same, right? We're less than a week away from the end of the season, so you would have thought. And the thing is, if you do it then you can use that like, hey, stay with us. We have this big offer. Because he mentions in the letter the salary cap, the draft pick, the return of Cade Cunningham. Well, none of that can – I feel like we can't be too excited about any of that stuff yet because we still have basketball to watch, right? And so – I have no doubt there was some sort of strategy behind it. Maybe it was to get people to come out to LCA last night, and then I assume we'll have a pretty good crowd tonight just because it's the last home game. But you're probably going to get a good crowd for the last home game anyway. So it would have been interesting just to know why not hold that off for a week. I do wonder if, like, this is a tell that, like, they're hearing the fan base and the impatience and the questioning because – Troy Weaver hasn't been questioned, right? I feel like the fan base, jumped in pretty like 2 feet all in, and now all of a sudden, after the 3rd year of this, and this one being super disappointing, I think some fans are starting to really question, whether this thing is going to turn around like we are, and really restore.
We took a phone call at the top of the hour this morning from an avid listener and a diehard Detroiter, and I felt like I read that letter and I'm like, Troy walked into a tough situation. It was like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, I get what you're saying, but you're coming in as a general manager trying to fix a franchise that is completely broken. You're going to try to tear this thing down to the studs. He's flipped the roster multiple times already. And in the first draft class, Killian Hayes, I think, has kind of proven, like, I'm not mad at Killian Hayes anymore. I have forgiven the Tyrese Halliburton thing. I'm go with God, love and serve, all that good stuff. And I'm like, okay, so we know that we have a guard that can come in off the bench and give us 20 or less minutes a night, and he could be productive. He's good defensively. Okay, we Killian Hayes is just not a 7th overall pick, and I can live with that. But Saddiq Bey is no longer on the team, and Isaiah Stewart, I love him. I love his hustle. He's undersized at his position. He's a good hustler. but he's just a guy. So that first draft class that we were all really excited about, we got a couple guys coming in off the bench. Okay. Then you go with Cade Cunningham. He gets injured this year, so we have no idea what he is. We just know that what we saw in his rookie year, right there for Rookie of the Year, playing on a bad leg. And then last year's draft with Jaden Ivey and identifying him, getting him, I wanted him, that's great. And then making the move for Jalen Duren, I think was fantastic. And that to me is kind of the saving grace because it's like, look, you've got three really good young core pieces that haven't played a whole lot together in Cade, Ivey, and Duren. This, like, you can buy my patience with those three.
Yeah, I mean, Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren were incredible last night. And I tweeted this out.
It's because they knew you were there. That's why they saw the lineup in the press row. They said, we better put on for him.
What's funny is, so this is my third game. The first game I came to was Boston. They lost. The second one was in Denver, and they won. And so I was like, yep, I'm going to tweet it out. 2-1 whenever I'm in attendance, whenever I thought they were going to beat the Heat last night. And then, of course, that's not what happened. But what I tweeted out, Anthony, was Jaden Ivey did that last night with that roster around him against a fully healthy Miami Heat team who needed to win. The Miami Heat weren't resting guys. The Miami Heat are jockeying for play-in position, and they needed that win. And you saw when Jimmy Butler decided he needed to take over, he took over. But he had 37 and 4, and he should have had 5 more assists if guys just make literally wide open shots that he created, not just like simple passes, like he created open looks for them. So my point is, yes, I agree with you. Jalen Duren, I think, had a 20-point double-double. And so what I feel like right now, Anthony, is I agree with you. Troy walked into a situation where, are we going to keep playing in mediocrity, or are we going to literally break this down to nothing and then start to build it back up? That's the path they took. They had a plan. I'm cool with it. I'm bought in. They missed on one draft pick, right? Like the Killian Hayes one is probably going to go down as a miss. What you've got out of Sadiq, what you've got out of Isaiah Stewart's probably good. I don't think any decisions, like we can debate every single one, hasn't changed the trajectory of this team. Those decisions are going to start coming, though, Anthony. You got to hit on this draft pick because it's going to be top 5. That's locked in after last night with their loss and the Rockets win. You got free agency money again. All of those decisions. Now is the time where he has to start building, and now is the time where mistakes can happen, or hopefully he makes all the right decisions and we see this thing built out the way we're all hoping.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by what happens in the offseason and who they can find to fit that core of those three youngsters in Duren, Ivey, and Cunningham, because that's going to be the chemistry there, the mix there is going to be very, very important.
Anthony, let me ask you a question. Let's say the Pistons don't get Wemby. I don't know how you feel about Wemby, Scoot, and Brandon Miller, but I think all three of those guys, those are the three guys in the draft that right now sitting here, I feel like have multiple all-star upside, all NBA upside, which would give you now Cade, who has that, Ivy, who has some of that, Duren, who maybe has some, what I'm saying. Do you think if they miss on those guys, is the core of Cade, Ivy, Duren, is there enough upside with all three of those guys where you're like, okay, we're good, we just got to fill the roster around them? Or do you still think they have to fill out with some like legit top-end, all NBA type talent?
And the other issue is I don't know if that's available in free agency this year. Like, I know we have cap space, but this doesn't exactly look like a class that I'm willing to spend a whole bunch of money on. I'm going to be honest with you, Pistons fans.
I agree. So you would push it down the road a year, I guess. Like, because I'll be honest, that's what I would do. Like, if you get Wemby, Scoot, or Brandon Miller, you're feeling good. You add that to the core, and you're like, hey, we're just going to grow with these guys. And then if you want to add veterans right now around them to win a little bit more right now, I'm cool with it, whatever. I think if they don't, then the next plan has to be like, okay, how are we going to acquire this guy? Because it's probably not free agency, right? If that guy hits free agency, I'm sorry, Amari says this all the time, unless you're New York, Miami, or L.A., you're probably not getting him anyway. It's not a Detroit thing. It's an everybody but those teams thing. And so now you have to figure out how you're going to, get all of the assets to probably trade for that guy. So,
And for me, I'm kind of Wemby or bust. I'm not gonna lie, because I think if Victor Wembanyama at 7'4", if you miss the clip where he shoots a three, it goes off the iron, and then he gets his own putback and dunks it. Like, this guy is a freak. He's 7'4" tall. If he goes to your team, I expect your team to not only be you would be in the playoff chase. You would have to be.
I would. I think the restoration, like we talked about Cade being drafted or getting the number one pick in that draft, kind of speeding up the restoration, which obviously hasn't happened. Wemby legit does that, because not only is he that good and that much of a difference maker, especially defensively for a team that, Anthony, we talk about this all the time, isn't very good defensively right now. He makes up for a lot of mistakes because he is 7'4", 7'5" with that wingspan and can move. I think what you do then, I think their offseason completely changes, because it is, okay, is Bogey the starting three? Is Bogey not the starting three? Who's our starting three man that's going to help us win as many games as possible? Who's the second unit that helps us win? Every decision is made on, we have the top-end ceiling talent that we need. Let's go ahead and start trying to win as many games as we possibly can. So I think the whole idea of the offseason completely changes.
I mean, if you have Wemby at the 4, Duren, true 5, Bogey at the 3, Ivy and Cunningham.
That's a squad.
I mean, hell, you don't win at least 42 games, I'm going to be irate, Bryce. I'm going to go nuts. I'm going to lose my mind.
And here's the thing, Anthony. You have $40 to $50 million to round out your second unit in that scenario. That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't think Killian Hayes is good enough to be your backup point guard? Perfect. Go sign one. You don't think Alec Burks is going to have it next year? Perfect. Go sign one. You don't think Isaiah Livers is going to cut it on the wing? Perfect. Go sign one. I'm not saying I believe that. I'm just saying you would have all that cap space and a second-round pick. Like, let's not overlook that. I've been trying to tell people that. Pick 31, I like pick 31 in this draft, because 20 to 40 is a mess. And so Weaver could do some interesting things there. He could package that with something else and move up if there's a guy he targets, or he may have a guy that just falls to him there that really fits the roster. So I'm with you. I just 14% chance, right?
Right. That's the thing. I don't want to put all my eggs in the Wemby basket, but all of my eggs are in the Wemby basket. His name is Bryce Simon. You can find him on Twitter at Motor City Hoops. Bryce, my friend, I thank you for waking up with us early this morning after a late-night bender, after a game at Little Caesars Arena. Man, enjoy your trip. Enjoy tonight's game as well. It'll be the Pistons and the Nets inside Little Caesars Arena, tip-off at 7 o'clock. Be sure to follow Bryce on Twitter at Motor City Hoops and find the podcast, The Pistons Pulse, with he and Amari Sankofa. Bryce, my friend, as always, partner, thank you so much for the time. Enjoy your stay, brother.
I appreciate it, man. It's always great talking to you.